Hi, well, welcome to your flipped classroom. This is a reading flipped classroom. I'm going to read the next chapter of the story of the Great Food Bank Heist, the book that we're using in class. So I'm just going to get to the chapter. We're on chapter 6, and chapter 6 is called, I'll come past it, The Last Pawn. PAWN, pawn, that's when you take something to a shop and you pawn that item. So it could be, just for example, I've got a pen and I'm going to pawn this in the shop. So I give it to the shopkeeper, he gives me some money, and that's called pawning. Okay, so PAWN. At Breakfast Club that week and the week after that, all anyone could talk about was the food bank and the fact that it didn't seem to have much food anymore. Leon said the thieves had taken so many things that the bank would need to shut down soon. But then William said that that would be illegal and that the army would come to help and give us the sugar and tea and butter that we needed, just like they did in World War II. Kerry said it didn't matter as long as we still had breakfast club and free dinners at school, except that maybe we would need to wear clothes with more pockets so we could save things to take home. But as more weeks went by, things got worse. Mrs. Bell saw that we weren't talking or playing as much as we normally did, so she began to give out extra portions of fruit and toast. It still wasn't enough. Nothing was big enough to fill the giant black holes in our tummies. Even Lavinia's red hair had started looking less electrocuted. Krish and Harriet could see that I was feeling tired all the time, so they tried to give me food by pretending they suddenly didn't like their favorite things anymore, or had eaten too much already. I knew they were lying, so one day I told them to stop it and to leave me alone. Stop what? Asked Harriet, looking shocked, while Chris stared at me with a cereal bar hanging out of his mouth. Just stop feeling sorry for me. I'm fine, I shouted, feeling red-hot angry. I don't want your stupid biscuit. I only asked if you wanted to share it with me, said Harriet, getting angry too. I could tell because her nostrils were moving up and down. Krish was frowning and staring at me too as the cereal bar in his mouth began to crumble. Suddenly I felt stupid as my stomach gave a roar so loud that everyone could hear. Sorry, I said. It's just... Krish took a slow step towards me, as if I was a crocodile who might bite his head off. Did we do something wrong? He asked. I gave up. I knew I had to tell them, because if everyone at Breakfast Club was right, then me and Mum and Ashley were going to starve soon. In fact, we were already starving. This month felt harder than the last one. Last night, we only had half a slice of toast each for dinner, and Ashley had fallen asleep crying. Her insides were beginning to hurt again. So I broke the Breakfast Club rule and told Harriet and Krish what everyone was saying about our bank being robbed. That's horrible, cried Krish. Why would anyone steal anything from a food bank? Asked Harriet. She stopped being angry with me and instead got angry with the thieves. I shrugged. I don't know, but it means everyone feels hungry all the time. Maybe the thieves are selling all the stuff they're stealing from a food bank, muttered Harriet. She shoved the chocolate biscuit into my hand and I gobbled it down as she carried on talking. But how are they taking everything? Are they breaking into the bank every night? She asked. I shook my head. The bankers had told everyone that no one had broken into the warehouse at all. Wait, where does all the food for the bank come from again? Asked Krish. From people at the supermarkets, I said. They donate things and put them in a special trolley, and then the supermarkets take everything to the bank, and then the bankers put the food on the shelves and give it to us. That's cool, said Krish. Well, if it's not being nicked straight from the bank, then the thieves have got to be stealing it from the supermarkets, said Harriet. Mum and Dad always give our donations to Glad Stores, the big one up the road. We buy extra stuff and put it in the food bank trolleys, just like you said. Glad Stores is the one that gives my bank all its food, I said. I suddenly felt embarrassed. What if I had been eating food that Harriet and her mum and dad had been giving away? Now I knew why Mum didn't like taking things from charity. It was embarrassing to have to eat things that your friends had donated. Hey, maybe we should do a stakeout at Glad Stores, said Krish, getting excited. You mean a stakeout? When you go and spy on people? I asked. Yeah, answered Chris. We could all go undercover after school and find out how the robbers are stealing the food. If we catch them and take them to the police, maybe we could get a special medal too. But how would we do a stakeout at Glad Stores? I asked. It's huge. The thieves would be mad to steal things with loads of people about. Don't they have a million cameras and security guards and things? Asked Harriet. They'd have caught the thieves by now, wouldn't they? Maybe, said Krish. He scratched his head and gave a shrug, as we all thought about what else we could do. We soon forgot all about Krish's stakeout idea, but then something happened which made me so angry that I knew we had to do something. The following weeks were good weeks, because Mum got paid and could buy enough food with her own money to stop our stomachs from growling all the time. We were down to our last food bank voucher, and I knew Mum wasn't going to use it until she had to. But then she did have to because the greedy rent man sent a letter telling us that Mum had to pay more rent or leave. After she had paid him, Mum had to take us to the bank again right away. But when we got there, Mrs. Patel and Mr. Anthony and Natasha could only give us 1.5 bags of food. They all said sorry 100 times and looked so sad it made me started to feel scared. Then the next week, Mum had come home with the hugest bags of shopping me and Ashley had ever seen. They were filled with treats and packets of all the delicious things we loved, but hadn't eaten in a long time. There were chicken nuggets for Ashley, burgers for me, and chips for us all, and Mum's favourite dessert, jam Swiss roll. It was as if Christmas had come, except there wasn't a man with a giant belly trying to get down a chimney that we didn't have. As Ashley skipped around the kitchen singing, Mum turned on the oven and put in 2 burgers, one for me and one for Mum, and one for 7 chicken nuggets, for Ashley, and exactly 33 chips. I looked at Mum and frowned. Something was different. Mum, where did you get all this money? All of a sudden, I asked as I helped set out the table for what was going to be the best meal we had had in ages. I knew her payday wasn't for at least another week. Oh, just a bit of luck, said Mum, giving me a wink. And then suddenly I noticed it. The thing that was different. It was the empty space on her finger. Mum, I cried, Nan's ring. Heading over to the fridge, Mum opened the door and pretended she was looking for something inside it. My insides were getting too heavy, so I went and opened the cupboard door and put my head inside it. We always ended up like that whenever I found out that Mum had paid a visit to the pawn shop. When I was little, I used to think pawn shops had made a big spelling mistake and they sold prawns but had forgotten to put the R in. But they hadn't, because they don't really sell anything at all, not even prawns. They let you borrow money in exchange for your most precious and most expensive things. And then if you earn enough money again, you can go and buy it back from them. But that never happens, not for Mum anyway. As I sat with my head in the cupboard, I made a promise that when I grew up, I would get a job that paid me millions of pounds and I would go and buy Nan's ring back, just as quick as I could. But for now, I wouldn't let Mum take any more of the things at the pawn shop. Nan's ring had to be the last pawn ever. So as I waited for Mum to leave the fridge, I decided Krish was right. We had to do something. It was time to make a stakeout plan and catch the food thief bank thieves. And there we go. That's chapter 6. Hope you enjoyed that. Read along if you've got the copy of the book at home, and maybe think about what do you think is going to happen next. Until next time, see you later.